Hello and welcome to another episode of the Next Iteration podcast. I am here with Chands, and Chands and I have today we want to talk about architectural decision records. In the previous episode, we talked about how technical decision making is a tough thing, which is important to get right all of the time, and it's difficult to get it right for a number of reasons that we discussed in the previous episode. And so today we want to talk about what are ADRs and how they help in making the right decisions and in communicating them effectively with the team. So let's dive in. So Chance, let's first talk about what is an ADR. Uh, what is it and how
Uh,
does it help?
yeah. ADR, it's an acronym which stands for Architecture Decision Record. At its core, it's a lightweight document that captures the context, the rationale, and the consequences of a decision. And this decision is generally architectural, but could be technical as well. And it applies to a project team, Chirag.
Right. And um, could you then sort of when a team is using ADRs, what does that decision making process typically look like, Chance?
Yeah, so ADRs, in software, people are more used to writing good quality code, good quality tests, uh, and also most open source libraries, which are very good, have good documentation. So ADRs fall in the realm of knowledge management, and they have their own purpose. So the first part, Chirag, of identifying would be identification of what decisions to record as an ADR. Because certain decisions are there which are easily reversible. They may not impact significantly. You first we need to identify a decision typically which is architecturally significant. And like I touched upon earlier, architecture is generally non-functional, but it could be functional. And like you rightly mentioned, we can abstract this to be technical decision records as well, right? And what I mean by significant decision, something which like involves a very high cost, that has a long-term impact on the team, and that will impact the lives of several people. So those significant decisions, because of the factors that I mentioned, are generally hard to reverse. So it's always good to have a good structured process, and then a good way to arrive at a decision. So the first step would be, Chirag, to identify a decision to be recorded.
Right. And some
Um,
examples of those kinds of significant decisions are, when the team's trying to choose between a couple of technology
yeah,
tools, or when they are trying to choose between a couple of architectural patterns, or and so on, right? Or what is their testing strategy, or what is their deployment
yeah,
strategy, and so on. So okay, so you've as the team, as the lead in the team, you've arrived at this point where you know that this is a significant decision, and we have to make it, and we want to use ADRs for it. Then what would be the next step after that?
yeah. The next step, logical step, would be to gather context, as in each decision. There is no universal like a way to do it. There is no one good answer. It needs to be made in the context of your particular team, what constraints you have, what opportunities you have, and then what options do you have there, and then mainly what is the business goal that you're trying to achieve. So you need to document this context, because without the context, that decision wouldn't solve your purpose. And then when I say gather context, it's about, like you'll see a theme here, Chirag, that we will have to involve people on the team. This cannot be made in isolation. So that people would be the core team members, would be extended team members, could be partners, and very importantly, would be the stakeholders of the team. So in general, you would need to have a good context or good understanding of the business needs. It could be in terms of the team skills as well, and also what is the current state of the system. So you would need to gather the context.
So you've gathered the context, and then I suppose the next step then is that in the light of all that context, what the goals are, what the constraints are, what the challenges are, what are the skills we have,
Yeah.
based on all of that is when you'd come up with a list of options, and then start to analyze which options
Right.
are superior in, given the context, which option will be superior than the others. Is that right? So then, that's the next step. And like you were saying, Chans, the the important thing that strengthens both of these steps of gathering context and and evaluating the options. There are two things that can strengthen that process. One is that you involve a diverse set of people from the team
Yeah.
and stakeholders beyond the current team as well, beyond the core team as well. That will strengthen, the quality of the context you've gathered, as well as the quality of options that the teams come up with. And the other thing is that you, as the team writes this down, right, as the team
Yeah.
starts to create a lightweight document for what are the constraints and what is the goal, and what are the business needs and team skills and so on. And as you start to write down what are the various options and what are the trade-offs involved in each of them, that again strengthens the thinking. So this thinking is
Yeah.
strengthened, one, by involving people, diverse people from the team, and two, by the process of using structured, sort of writing it down and putting structure around it, right, to make that happen. Um, and so you've done that, right? So you've identified a significant decision, you've documented and thought about what is the context, you've
Yeah.
got inputs about various options, you've identified which option seems to be better than the rest. And you've done all this by involving the stakeholders, you've done all this while also involving the team members. So then what? So
Yeah.
that's when you finalize the record, is that's when you document it, and and are you done at that point, or is there more to
Yes and no, Chirag. Yeah, there would be more, like you correctly mentioned, about the importance of evaluating options. Until this point, the decision is not made yet, because the decision is basically a justified or an informed option among all the options that you have. So each option would have some consequences, and generally both positive or negative. If an option would have only positive consequences, maybe you don't need a decision. So it's important to evaluate the options, and as a team, decide what is the option that you're going forward with. So to make the decision, generally the team needs to align and commit to it. It's like actually it's important, uh, like you mentioned, to involve the entire team and the extended team to get to a commitment. It's possible that not everybody agrees to that particular choice, but it's again important to move forward and commit as a team together. And after you have made a decision, and when we spoke about the problems earlier, it's important to record it, which is what we call as documenting the decision. And this will not only help the current team in terms of a reference, in terms of making your future decisions like more efficient, but it will uh, have that benefit of aligning your future team members as well. So that's where the next step, like after like first we identified, then we captured the background or the context, then we evaluated the different options objectively, and after that, while involving the entire team, we have now made and documented the decision. Chirag. That's the next step.
cool. And so then what comes after that? Um,
So now the decision is made. Let's assume it's of high quality. We have recorded it as a reference and for the future. And now the team moves on. One important thing is to enact the decision, right? You have made a decision. There's an effective date for the switchover, and people are responsible. So they would apply that decision onto their deliverables or onto the project setting. But as you do that, it's expected that in the future, more decisions have to be made. It's important to now leverage your records or your ledger of decisions to understand your past decisions and see what can be utilized from there for the future. So that step is generally called review, Chirag. It's about organizing your decisions well, about keeping them current and also reviewing them from time to time to help your future decisions. So that becomes like a sort of a decision loop, and it makes things efficient. It keeps things current, right? And also one optional step would be to share this, right? Like you are a team of 10 to 20 people and you have an extended team and stakeholders, you are making good decisions and you become fluent in it. But you are part of a bigger org and there are many more teams in it. You are working with partner teams. It's important to, if applicable and if allowed, you would. It's always good to share this decision records and also the process to inspire other teams and also then scale it beyond your team so that the whole org participates and that growing explicit knowledge is going to help everyone.
All right. So we've covered the sort of, important steps in the process, and that gives people an overview of what it feels like when you're using ADRs.
Yeah.
And that's great. So now let's dive into what does a good ADR look like?
Mm.
How yeah, how would you know a good one from a bad one? Like so, what do good ADRs look like, Chand?
Yeah. And ADR is a document, Chirag, and most documents are based off templates. So it's very important to choose a right template. A template is like a blueprint on what you fill in those blanks. So a characteristic of a one good characteristic of a good ADR would be that it is lightweight. At a very raw level, you can think of if your ADR is a document, it should not be beyond 2 pages. It's not a essay, right? It needs to be concise and it's not easy to get this right the first time because written words don't carry body language or like emotion and but still you're writing about choices, you're writing about your opinions, and you may want to write at length, but I would say balance that, record facts, record key elements that will convey this in a concise manner. So, and the downside is, yeah, if it's too verbose, then it may have like everything in there, but its consumption and its longevity decreases rapidly. So one key element is for like for a good ADR is to be light.
Right. And then another element is that you want ADRs to follow a simple and consistent structure, right? So that one ADR looks similar in terms of its structure and content and the aspects that it covers and the depth it goes into should be similar to the other ADRs that you have. So it's important you were talking about a template, and so typically an ADR would certainly cover, what the decision is, what is the context, what is the choice, final choice that we made, what were the alternatives that were considered, and what is the consequences of the decision that we are making. So like that kind of clear structure has to be also consistently applied across different areas, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, Chirag. I think it's a good segue to talk about like templates as well. And the idea of template, like you mentioned, is that it is a template, and all documents would be created on that template. And that template is the structure, right? That gives you a structure on what to follow, and this impacts of how lightweight it can be. So templates are very important. There is a lot of tooling options out there, Chirag, to create ADRs in a preferred format like as Markdown, in a preferred language such as Java. So it's like closer to your context. So I would say, yeah, people can look at what works best for them. But this structure at a very high level would be that you document one decision per ADR. You leverage convention as a tool, right? If you have a proper naming convention of the files, if you organize the files in a correctly named folder, then that will give you like a lot of advantages, and then the adoption also is going to become high. And within that, there are certain sections, and I think we have mentioned things in brief, like context. Then we spoke about consequences. We spoke about options. There would be a name, like a title for the decision, and then a very important aspect would be people, on which people are involved, and there'll be an effective date as well. So once you decide on the pieces of the structure of this template, and as you review it, like to match your context as it grows. And like you said, if all the ADRs follow this structure, it's going to pay you dividends.
Great. And so now let's say the team's been doing that for a few months and now they have a set of ADRs. Each of them are lightweight and clear and so on. But now it's becoming a bunch. So I
Yeah.
suppose then it'll be important to find interconnections and make them obvious, the connections between these ADRs as well. So what kind of organization do teams need to pay attention to for making
Right.
sure that their ADRs are good?
Yeah. First thing that comes to mind, Chirag, here it's like very important what you mentioned. ADR should be easily accessible, right? Like if you are not able to view a ADR, perhaps because it is stored in source control and only the technical folks have access to it. But maybe you are from the legal team, you are from the business team or the product team, and you have to participate in that. Then automatically that entry barrier becomes very high. So it's important. Maybe for some teams, it's purely system architecture, and it makes sense for them to store the ADRs in like a source control. So, but you need to find that balance to ensure that they're easily accessible and connected to this. Uh, when we like the R in ADR is a record, and the record is typically comparable to a ledger, and ledger is a very nicely organized set of data, and you should be able to easily link back. So one is how accessible it is and how linkable they are. Because, like we mentioned, decisions change over time because that context expires or changes. So you should always be able to link decisions back and forth. And it's not like you made a decision, it's for life. It can be superseded, it can be obsoleted, right? So that linkable nature to the next decision will also improve learnability, will also build context on why things changed. And connected to this, it should be searchable. If you follow good naming convention, if you store it in a very organized place, then ADRs become searchable, and that will add to your knowledge management. So I would say accessible, linkable, and searchable.
All right, so I'll summarize what we've covered so far. We've said that ADRs need to be lightweight, they need to be concise, they need to follow
Right.
a clear, consistent structure, and that they need to be interlinked and well organized, and also that they need to be accessible by everybody in the team.
Right.
What else would you look for when you say that that's what a good ADR looks like?
Yeah. I think one last important point, Chirag, would be ADR. When I said ADR is a document based on a template, like one adjective would be ADR should be a living document. Because the realm of software is ever changing. It's unlike, let's say, you have a physical building or you have a bridge plan or even a phone hardware. The software system is composed of many moving parts, and things change, and that naturally impacts the decisions that you made. Things around framework, things around open source libraries, things around API style, maybe things around database choices. So things keep changing. So I would say ADRs need to be living documents. And in general, I know documentation is hard to maintain. So yeah, keep it lightweight and keep it concise and keep it closer to the code or closer to the context, and ensure that all the people are invested so that these decisions are updated. I would say obsolete or sort of irrelevant ADR now is worse than not having an ADR, because it's just going to make things worse.
Yeah, right. So that's the final point, that ADRs, they are only valuable if they are kept up to date. And then, another thing we've covered earlier, but I'll underline it again, that good ADRs are the ones that are created in collaboration with multiple people in the team, and in collaboration with the stakeholders of the team as well, because that then ensures that the quality of decision stays high, it ensures that the alignment with the decision stays high, and gives the
Yeah.
team the best chance to move forward smoothly. All right, so that's what ADRs are, and that's what good ADRs look like. We'll wrap up this episode here, and in the next one, we'll talk to you about what are the benefits that a team gets when they adopt ADRs for the decision making process. So see you soon in another one. Bye.
See you soon.